all know, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is rewriting some key conventions of the series. One of the most crucial of these are boss battles.
Exactly how will the game approach these, and more importantly, is the development team ripping a page or two straight out of Shadow of the Colossus just to place it inside of Breath of the Wild?
Guardians, hidden rock giants, and a walking skeleton. These are all hints of what is in store for us when we set our first steps in Hyrule. Do not be fooled by the desolate nature. Mechanized and biological threats will surely be lurking around every corner, ready to strike at a moment's notice.
Still, no true bosses have been sighted so far, and when we take into consideration what we have seen so far as mere mini-bosses, then we can only imagine what the bosses in the final game will be. For once, those mini-bosses of different kinds will for the first time on a large scale appear outside of dungeons. In this case, let's begin with the most influential, the Guardians. The Guardians, as we all know, are mechanical creatures controlled by a certain force. Several fan theories, including these two by HMK and Zeltic, have suggested that they are under the influence of Calamity Ganon, but were originally crafted by the Sheikah, who, by the way, are also known as a Guardian tribe.
At the Great Plateau, the activated Guardians pose a lethal danger capable of killing Link with one precise hit. In fact, the 6 hearts of damage dealt by these things and their insane amount of health points can only be compared to final boss battles in past installments. When you add the mobilized Guardians to the stationary type, you have a boss type enemy capable of chasing Link down over long distances and taking you down with one single hit. You get the picture of how tough it will be to take down these monstrosities, especially that one swarming around Death Mountain without an energy arrow or 2 in your arsenal. Next up is Steppe Talus, a giant boulder-like mini-boss with a rather obvious weak point and even more unique twist, climbing. Many haven't realized what impact and additional layer this little, but at the same moment, key implementation adds to how we define boss battles.
In the Zelda series, we have faced against phantoms, birds, gomas, dragons, golden automatons, tiki men, fish, flamboyant demons, and giant pigs. But even then, none of them apart from Levius and the Imprisoned have been fully climbable. So in past 3D Zelda games you have been able to fight in a number of different positions, but never climb enemies or take them on from their own skin or surface. Based on the official trailer, it appears that there will be more mini-bosses or bosses, which seem to be climbable, where the skill will be demanded in order to take down, for instance, the skeleton beast. But why does this all sound so familiar? After all, the bosses seem to be taller, tougher, require greater precision, and some are even climbable.
The analogy may be obvious, but the bosses in Breath of the Wild might have more in common with Shadow of the Colossus than traditional Zelda bosses. And let's set this straight, that is not a bad thing, not at all. Critics praised the Shadow of the Colossus for specifically the inspirational, emotional, and masterly crafted boss fights. Now, we don't say that bosses of these sizes will await us in every corner or province of Hyrule. On the other side, there may be the non-dungeon overworld bosses we have craved for a long time. There may also be the explanation as to why the Hylians were forced to abandon their territories 100 years prior and sought refuge in whatever place that could keep them safe from Calamity Ganon and his minions. Perhaps defeating these might be a secondary objective to slowly reclaiming fallen territories. If so, then count us in. Hunting down the majestic Colossi and Shadow of the Colossus were a one-of-a-kind experience, and to go through something similar in Breath of the Wild would be nothing short of spectacular. After all, just look at the title of the game, Breath of the Wild!
It would make perfect sense to have these massive creatures as the perfect supplement and side objective to free the surface from these beasts and slowly bring back the light that must shine upon Hyrule once again. Furthermore, it will add a greater purpose to take down the greater evil, Calamity Ganon. As we all know, bosses in the Zelda series over the years have become more and more generic and their weak points have been too exposed, making battles too predictable for experienced players.
However, there are some exceptions from this general rule, and 2 of them are from Skyward Sword. The first one, Colossus, had the brain to cover its weak point, and the second is naturally the final fight against Girahim and his 3 stages of fabulousness. As mentioned, Breath of the Wild seems to depose the notion of generic or brain-dead bosses. I'm looking at you, Twilight Princess, with battles that more than ever force you, the player, to think independently when approaching the enemy. If it is true that these giants will appear across Hyrule and will have to be taken down one by one to free that particular area, then what in the name of Hylia will be lurking inside of the real dungeons? Dark Souls bosses?
But before we move any further with what you might assume to be blunt speculations on colossal boss battles, take this. The implementation of climbable boss battles might be new in the series, but the idea is far from it. Let us present to you the scrapped vision of the climatic boss battle against Colossal Ganon in Ocarina of Time. Due to technical limitations of the time, the development team of Ocarina of Time had to abandon these plans for a Colossal Ganon, which would have involved, you guessed it, climbing, and a beast like nothing we have ever witnessed in the Zelda series. In other words, it appears that Breath of the Wild is bringing back ideas which were scrapped in the past due to hardware limitations.
Will Colossal Ganon return in the form of Calamity Ganon? It's hard to tell, but what we can allude from Steppe Talus and the other bosses in the overworld is that these bosses will be on a whole different level. We do sincerely believe that the development team is still hiding away the true leap in this game, with surface boss battles demanding skill, strategy, and mastering your horse with items such as the energy arrow, the paraglider, and combining these with Link's arrow time and climbing abilities. What else will we use these for? Fighting bokoblins? No way! They must be for the true threats lurking out in the former kingdom of Hyrule, colossal overworld bosses, and what worse bosses could be locked away in the dungeons of this game. Well, the dungeon battles are harder and nearly impossible to imagine, but rest assured, the Zelda team must be pulling out something spectacular to make sure these bosses surpass the best in the series.
After all, Breath of the Wild is not only supposed to be the ultimate Zelda experience in terms of its overworld, it is also supposed to set new standards for equipment, combat, puzzles, dungeons, and naturally the bosses in and outside of these. It is probable that each of these battles will have some serious build-up, as the fate of humanity will undoubtedly rest on Link's shoulders. It is up to him to free Hyrule from this evil and bring the kingdom and its people back to its might. After all,
Link, you are the light. Our light. That must shine upon Hyrule once again.
And that sums it up for boss battles. Sure, there is little that we know, but based on what we have been shown and teased with, and the level of ambition set for this game, it is probable that the Steppe Talus and the mobile guardians out in Hyrule Field are only minor hazards compared to what is yet to be revealed by the development team, or heck, even discovered on our own inside Breath of the Wild. We can definitely sense that Shadow of the Colossus vibe in there, and in fact, something more. With that in mind, we will give you the following choice for the next episode of Inside Breath of the Wild. Do you want us to cover our story and fixed timeline placement theory of the game, or do you want us to cover voice acting? Vote by commenting below. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, then please like, share, favorite, and comment, and if you are new, then subscribe to Commonwealth Realm to not miss any future episodes of this Zelda Breath of the Wild series, videos on the Nintendo NX, and gaming lore.
until then, this was the Commonwealth Realm
And HMK.
And we will see you guys and girls later.